Welcome back. In this video, we're going to focus on painting with effects, and we're going to knock out a lot of the extra detail that I have in mine in a very simple way. And up here you can see in mine that I have like the gold plate with a rustic kind of look. I have a little bit of a tint to my doors. My doors are black versus the gray, and the gray just doesn't look right on this particular paint skin. It just doesn't match. I have the Apu Intake vent, or whatever this thing was called. It's gold. A lot of things are gold. My windows and everything else. Let's actually go to Window, Arrange, and then Tile horizontally here. And actually, let's match the zoom factor also. Match zoom. And now we can get a better look at what's going on here. So you see a lot of things like my winglet edges gold, my Apu Intake gold, and just a lot of different little details that I did here and there and there. So my windows and all those other little things. So let's jump in and get right to it. I'm going to go full screen with this one here, FF, and let's create a new layer. Now up until now, actually, we went ahead and everything that we did is in this one group. With the exception of our background color, that is, our temporary background color. So let's start filling in the blanks here. Let me turn that back on because there's one thing that I want to fix right now before we start filling in our gold tint. And if you go in around 200% here or more, you can see this little bit of artifacts that are around your windows. Little colors here and there. And that's fine if you want that effect. I don't think that was an intentional thing actually. I think like myself, when I create a new window, I just kind of drag and move and just create multiples very fast. And I think that was a byproduct of that. So to clean them up, go up to your, let's see here, not door outlines, inside our model, inside Windows. There we go. Have that selected. Press E for your eraser tool, and make sure it's a hard brush. So make sure this is all the way to 100, and you want to make sure that opacity and flow are to 100. And you can go through yours and go ahead and erase everything that you see. You don't have to, but I'm going to go ahead and knock mine out real quick at lightning speed here. Now as we get to the lighter areas here of the fuselage, I want to make it easier on myself and go ahead and fill in a temporary layer below Windows, and I'm going to just fill that right in with black so I could focus more on just getting this done. Actually, black isn't going to do it for me. I'm going to say a blue color, kind of like our background. And there we go. Now I can see him. Okay, I'm going to zoom back out here and we are ready to now get started. I'm going to kill this layer that I created, delete it, and I'm going to, whoops, that was not the one I wanted to delete. There we go. And the first thing I want to do here is there are 3 windows here that are not cut out in the alpha channel, and I don't want them anyway. I've been inside the aircraft and I've looked out and they don't exist, and neither does this one. You do not have to follow this if you do not want, like anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and select the Windows layer, press M for my marquee tool. I'm going to draw a selection around this window here, and I'm going to hold down Shift and draw a selection around these 3 here. Now I'm going to press Control Shift J, and what that's going to do is the same thing if you went under Layer, New, and then chose to layer via cut. Control-Shift-J. And I'm going to call this layer Extra Windows. And I'm going to shut its visibility off. Now, if you zoom in here, you're going to see traces of these windows. And these traces are cutouts. And that is, without going into areas that I'm really not 100% sure on, from reading the forum, I do remember saying something that these fuselages, even cargo, will have these, like in combination aircraft. You will have these cutouts. So that's what they are there. They are modeled, they are there, and that is pretty damn cool. So I'm going to go into window blank, and I'm going to shut off this one, and this one, and go down to L44 blank copy 2. And what that one is this one here. Whew, thought I was wrong there for a minute. And the next thing I want to do, I'm done there. I want to go down to my doors and door outlines, door frame. And I want to do two things to this. First of all, I want to fill it in with black. So I'm going to go ahead and lock the transparent pixels. Now if I don't do that, here's what happens. Bam, I don't want that. So I have two options. I can either control click the door frames, which is fine, and then fill that with black, and that works. Or I can go ahead and lock the transparent pixels here and just fill that in with black, and it does the same thing. So I want to apply an effect to the doors. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the layer styles property by double clicking the layer. And I'm going to go down to bevel and emboss, and I'm going to click that. Now when you start playing around with effects, it is very, very, very important to know that you do not want to have global lighting on. Don't have it, especially in a split livery like this, because the effect that you might get on this door here might look fine, but it's going to be on the other door also, and we don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up for a property anyway that really doesn't matter much. I'm going to go with 180, and that's probably a little too much bevel that I want. I just want it to appear like a rubber seal, but not that embossed. So I'm going to say 37 there. That's good. So what I'm looking for here is I just want it to look like I said, a rubber seal. So if we go into 100%, it just gives me that little bit of outline that I want. Okay, and I want to do the same thing to the windows and all this other trim that we talked about, but I'm going to do that in a different way. So I'm going to zoom out here to about 25%, and let's start going through the list. But before we do that, I need to sample that gold color that we had, and that was down in this PSD here. And let's say sample, which is color of Foxtrot Charlie 103. Minimize that. And let's go back into full screen here. And I want to create a layer outside of what we've been working with. And that is because it's going to need to be up here to be seen. I want it to be under shadows. So I'll select the 737-800 model group, and I'm going to create a new layer on top of it. I'm going to call it gold. And I want to start at the top here. And I want to find different things that I want to color. And one of them is going to be light ring. And the light ring is further down here. That little donut around there that I had. And you don't have to do any of these if you don't want. You don't have to do all the same ones I want, or you could do different ones that I'm going to do. But with that selected, and with my gold layer selected, I'm going to fill that in with gold. And there we go. Let's zoom into this and I'll show you what's happening here. So I'm going to deselect it. And right now, as is, it looks kind of putrid to me. I want to see through it. I want to see the rivets through it. I just want the embossed look, that donut kind of glare look, and I don't want my color to be this color gold. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change its blending mode to color burn. And that's what I want, but it's still not quite what I want. I want to add an effect to it. I want to get that cool looking bevel and emboss going here. So I'm going to double click its layer, click on bevel and emboss, and shut off global lighting. And once again, I want to do about 180 by 37. And that's it. So with that layer selected, I'm going to go through this punch out list and get everything else done. So Windows is one that I want, so I'm going to control click that and then fill it. And I want to have, let's say, window or winglet leading edges, definitely, without a doubt. So I want all these different leading edges done, so I'm going to go ahead and right click it or control click it. So there we go. Now they look just like mine. And I also want to go down, let's kill that, and my door step plate 2, these bad boys. Now this is under a lot of dirt and shadows, and I love the effect that doing this does to it. I control click it, fill it, and that's a cool look. I like that just for its rusty kind of look. So we have our door. These right here are cargo door plates or sills right here. So I'm going to do the same with that. Fill that, deselect it. And this gives us a nice little gold hint or tint. And I love that. And this right here we'll get to in a minute. And let's go ahead and continue straight down the list. Collapse that. Let's see here. The Aoa, I'm going to go ahead and control click and fill that. That's on the front of the aircraft. Very unrealistic of me doing that because you might not want to do such a thing. Now on this particular one, I want to select the eraser, and this is a good size for it, a number 15, and I'm just going to head knock out that middle so it can sense all its stuff. Alright, and actually there's another one on the other side. We do the same thing to it. And you can see when we erase it out, we get that finished bevel look. It looks like a donut. Now this definitely looks like a donut. So again, this is really to show you guys different techniques, give you some ideas. And I'm just noticing now we didn't do the doors. We did the doors earlier, but we didn't do the doors with our gold tint, and I want that gold tint. So door outlines, door frame, fill it. There we go. Now that's better. I like that little gold look that it's given me. And let's get out here a little ways. That's it for doors. We got Aoa, Cockpit Windows. That one for sure. Whatever color you decide to go with, you're going to want to do your Cockpit Windows that color too. It's not really doing the glass. You're only doing the frame. And that I want. So, moving down the list. The Apu Intake. Okay, this right here, we want to fill that with gold. Or I did. But it's not going to be in our gold color that we want to do that in. What we want to do is go down to our paint layer. Go to the very top of the stripe. And then create a new layer. And call this whatever you want. I'm going to call it Apu Vein Color. And I'm just going to fill that right there where it is as that color. Now you can also play around with this if you want. If you zoom in to 100%, you're going to see that this too has, whoops, actual pixels. It needs some cleaning up. It needs a lot of cleaning up. So, you can do this with the pen tool if you want. I'm going to just quickly do it with the polygonal lasso tool here and just make a few selections. Nothing outrageous. You could, again, feel free to do whatever you want. Now I'm gonna actually stop here and just hit delete, and there it is. To get the rest of this, I'm going to hit eraser, or E for eraser, and I'm going to show you a tip. When you're painting, I'm going to switch to brush for a second. When you're painting, if you were to like click a spot and then go over here and hold down shift and click, you see what happens, and you can continue doing that. It's a great way to paint. You could do the same thing with the eraser tool. So I can click here and then come over here and shift click and then do the same thing here and there. So in this case, I'll click right there, come down to my edge there, click, and same there. Fix some of this, click there, hold down E, bam, there it is. And just fix up these last few small minor edges. I want to stay off the edge a little bit because I do like the soft look without having to get a soft eraser. And we'll cover that another time. Alright, so that looks fine. I like it. And we'll add all sorts of dirt and sludge to that later. Now going back up top, I want to reselect that gold tint layer that we got going there. Continue down our list. So we had our Apu Intake, rivets and paneling, tail skid. Now the tail skid is that box that I was talking about earlier. I'm going to fill that one in with me gold. And Apu vane. The Apu vane right here is actually going to be inside here. I'm going to want that one done, and I will be seeing that a little later when I shut off my temporary background color there. I can actually go ahead and select that right now and delete that background color so I can see it. And if you notice, I didn't delete the actual layer. I had this selection around this, which is why it only deleted that one part of that area. I'll reselect the gold. Come back down here and let's see what else we can find. So we got the Apu vane, we have the jack point stand, and we want this stab rubber. And what that is this guy right here. I will fill that. And now we have the right and left flap vane. And with the right and left flap vane, we don't want to do the way we're doing this. We'll do them separately. So first I want to do the Apu Exhaust, which is back here. So fill that in with my gold, and that also gives it a cool rusty look, and it blends in with my color scheme a little better. So I have everything I can think of. Whoops, I want these also, but I'm going to actually hand select these with the polygonal lasso tool, roughly. And one cool thing about the painting, like I said before, is you can paint outside the lines and it's forgiving. It doesn't matter. Everything around that doesn't do anything. So that's cool. It's not going to get the bevel and emboss look, but that's fine for these. I just want that gold tint on those. So these are what we want to do next. And if I were to select these and give them the gold tint, so I have this one selected, I'm going to now hold down Control and Shift and click on the next one, so I have these two selected. Now if I fill them, which I just did, you can't tell that I filled them. And that's because the blending mode isn't going with this because there's nothing really underneath it. What you're seeing there, what's making these up really, is just shadow. So if we went up to our shadow layer and we went to our flap vane shadow, if you were to shut them off, you'd see that the only thing underneath it is other, general weather on top of it and the colors beneath it. There's no real layer for just them. So what I'm going to do is turn that back on, and on top of my gold layer, I'm going to set one here, and I'm going to call it my flap vane color, and fill them with just normal gold, and they look beautiful. We have all our windows. We have our windows cleaned up, and we have our windows trimmed out. We have our doors done. We have our leading edges done, and everything else looks fairly good. This one right here too, I actually do kind of want this base to be that gold. But I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to press W for the wand tool, and I'm going to click and see what happens. I have made a selection of pretty much everything. Well, that's because where I clicked. So I'm going to go ahead and say sample all layers, and I'm going to click. And what this wand tool does is its toolbar has a tolerance, so you can crank that up. You can turn contiguous off. And when you shut that off, expect a wait time, because it's now taken the color for every single thing that you have within this huge PSD at a color tolerance of 14 and, selecting it. So since I selected that much, and to make this short, I'm just going to select the brush, make it a little bigger with my right bracket key here, and then just paint it in. Whoops, I'm on the wrong layer actually. Select my gold layer here and fill that right in. And that's cool because I like that, because now I do have a little bit of groove showing a little emboss on that. And this plate right here isn't even going to be shown unless you have the option turned on in your aircraft CFG. And we'll probably cover that at another time. Alright, so enjoy, and we are getting there. With the exception of a few minor things here, we're almost ready to flatten and start moving some things. Actually, I did forget these flap guards, and I want those. So let's find them, and we are looking at the flap rub plate here, I believe. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and control click those. I still have my gold layer selected, and I will fill that with Alt backspace, and that's that. Next tutorial, we'll go ahead and create our name and company logo, and some other things, like fix a few little things. I want to fill in these colors here. They're going to probably leave cracks in your paints, as well as the front here. And that's pretty much it. The windows. In this particular tutorial on the forum, you will find an attachment, and that is a rather large attachment, 14 or so megabyte. And it has an option or a different set of windows for you if you want, and they're for all the models of the NGX. And to give you a quick preview or a look at those. Alright, so here it is, and again, this is an optional idea. You don't have to do this. This is a set of windows for every variant. We have the 6, 7, 8, and 9. And you have a set of instructions that'll be in the first group, and then you can shut those instructions off. And then you'll see each group has the same, or has a set of alpha channels and the actual 900 windows. Alright, now to give you a quick explanation of why I created these, well, I've fielded a lot of people's problems and questions that they're having with their paints, and we're going to get into those as we get into those steps. So far, a lot of that, 90% of that, is human error. They're not getting in there and zooming in enough and lining up their textures properly. The NGX does not have give like you have in a lot of other models, to where you have that overlapping. You really have to be precise here, and you really have to pay attention to what you're doing, and a lot of people are running into problems with that. There are also problems with the paint kit, and I will cover them as we do those steps. But again, to give you an idea of what these windows are, is these windows are perfectly lined up, they're perfectly spaced, and I've spent a lot of time on these. And you have like the small windows here, you have these two windows which are the over the wing windows. And I wanted to make them smaller because I saw it in a few pictures to where they were smaller. Or at least they looked it to me, so I made them smaller. And that's pretty much it. Take a look. If you like them, great. If you don't, great. And they're there for those that want them. And I will see you in the next tutorial.